Good day to you, my fellow endoskeletons. I'm Kenetor and welcome to the first in a series of tutorials to help you learn about the Starship Creator in Starbase. In today's video I'll be going over the UI and what you need to know to use all the tools at your disposal. Now let's get to it. Before we get started, I'd like to remind everyone this is closed alpha and literally everything is subject to change. What works today may not work next week, so please keep that in mind. So starting off outside the editor, you will need to find the ship designer part of the station that you're on. These have a common look, and because they are so large, they are very easy to find. A key giveaway is they have a big opening on both sides. Bonus tip, if you didn't watch my station tour, the one at the starter station has an insurance terminal inside you can spawn at for fast travel here. Next we just jump into any of the blue instance boxes and head to the terminal. This terminal will normally have a single option to start a private session, but if you're with a friend and sharing a group, there will be an option to start a group session where they can join you. Or if your friends are already in a group session, this will be a join group session button instead, as long as you are in the same blue box area. Once you're in, you'll have an empty new file and the default layout. We have the top menu bar. This provides you with the file menu, allowing you to load and save your blueprints, reset your camera, and reset the panel layout should something go wrong or becomes a mess. I'll load the game's hauler ship as a demonstration. You have the selection menu, which I think is probably underused, but can be useful and faster than using asset locks. More on those locks a little bit later. You also have a settings button here, which will shortcut you straight to the designer specific settings. While settings can be mostly personal preference, I highly recommend setting the default placement distance to 2 or 3. This will save you so much scrolling, as each new object appears much closer to you when placing, instead of further away by default. You can also reset the defaults at any time at the bottom of this menu. To the right of the menu buttons we see some ticks and boxes. These are for all the floating windows, so if you close one accidentally, you can bring it back very easily. If you hover over any of these, its name should pop up. I always close the scene view as it has never helped me or added anything to the experience of shipbuilding, and generally I always open the last box, which is the building budget window. This is a key window to find out how close you are to hitting any of the build limits. It's important to know that this cost is based on that specific station's current economy, and as such can change price daily and will be much more or much less expensive at different stations. We also have buttons for saving the blueprint and delete for your selection. I've never used these as the keyboard shortcuts of Ctrl S and the delete key make for much easier use. Same goes for the undo and redo buttons, with Ctrl Z and Ctrl Y being used as standard. To the right of these we have the module create, attach and detach buttons. Modules can make it much easier to select pre-built and bolted sections of ships to speed up design creation. A popular one I recommend is thrusters. Make one, bolt it and make it a module, and then just copy this to all the required positions. Moving down to the asset browser here on the left, you can see it has a search bar, so if you need to look up a specific component quickly, this can be used. Otherwise we have a set of different folders for components. These can be opened to reveal even more folders, and the names are pretty self-explanatory. Next to each main folder there is a small green square and a padlock. The square is used for turning on and off visibility of that type of component, and can be considered similar to layers if you're used to working in 3D software. Looking at our example ship, I can turn several bits transparent with this tool, but note these are still selectable, and that's where the padlock comes in. You can turn off selection of these parts with the padlock, and it turns red showing these components can no longer be selected. This works independent of the transparency setting. I find it useful when editing a ship to use them both. For example, changing something that is behind plating, you can make it transparent as well as locked, and it's like it's not even there. And the last button at the top is the test flight button. This will spawn you into a small instanced area with the station. The main difference being is that you cannot crash into the station as it has no hitbox. This is good to test your ship and whether it flies straight, and the controls are set up as you want them. Further down the asset list there are some pre-built modules the devs have made for your use, and it's as easy as clicking them as you would a normal asset and placing them in your scene. Below this you can find your save files for each of your ships, and providing they do not exceed the limits of the scene, can be placed in the designer from here should you need to grab anything from another ship. Over on the right hand side of the screen we have the properties window. Here you can see the name of the object as well as any values or fields you can change. You'll be using this mostly to change field names of controls or thrusters, for example. To the right of this you have the tool options, which will change depending on which tool you have selected, which brings us to the tool menu right below this. You have 9 tools to choose from, and the keyboard shortcuts of these are 1 to 9. These are the Select and Move tool, Select and Rotate tool, Selection tool, Bolt tool, Cable and Pipe tool, Durability tool, Snapping tool, Socket tool, and finally the Auto Bolt tool. As you can see, hovering over each tool shows a small description and its hotkey. Some tools like the Cable and Pipe tool have tool options that will appear above. You can see that to use either cables or pipes, I have to switch between them here. Same for the Auto Bolt tool. This can be used on everything that can be connected or limited to just selected pieces. This tool can also unbolt your ship as well and even remove its attachment plates. And now for some quick examples. The Bolt tool can place and remove bolts with the left and right click respectively. The Cable tool operates in a similar way, placing and removing with the same controls. Important to note, cables and pipes can only jump small gaps and must be run along or through objects. Again, running through objects may be taken out at some point, but for now this is how it works. And for the Snapping tool, each object has a set of specific snapping points that can be used. You don't have to be in the tool to use these snapping points as they work automatically. But if you have any trouble getting something to snap, try using this tool. Another reason to use this tool is if you are moving a large group of objects, these also do not snap sometimes. The last window to talk about is the MUUS window. This keeps track of every action that you have taken, allowing you to undo a lot of actions, or pick a specific action you remember and undo directly to that by right clicking. I've had this list up to the thousands of actions, and while I haven't tried to undo everything, I've certainly gone back 100 or so steps. It's very useful if you realise you went wrong somewhere. And to finish us off, I've got a few quick tips for you. If you need more than one object, let's say you want to create more crates for the ship, you can select one, hold shift and move it to create a new one. This saves time going through the asset browser. Another tip is to use temporary objects to get correct placement. Here you can see I can't get these beams to snap half a beam offset from each other, but adding a quick plate to snap to can help with this. Another great tip is if you want to hide or lock all but one layer, you can alt click and this will do just that. This tip is probably the one I use the most. You don't have to use the rotate tool to rotate an object you're holding. You can either quick rotate around each axis with the shortcut keys of X, Y and Z, or hold them and mouse drag for finer control. My last quick tip is that all the windows can be resized and moved to where you find them the most useful or the least intrusive to the design space. And that's the overall interface you have for designing a ship. I hope you found it useful and tune into the next one. I'll be going in depth around many of the things used in putting together a ship, so stay tuned. I'll be keeping all of the Ship Creator tutorials in their own playlist, but to make sure you never miss out, please do hit the bell after subscribing for notifications on all my videos, and I'll see you in the next one. Kenetor, out.